Hello, welcome to our presentation on the New Madrid, Missouri earthquakes from 1811 to 1812. My name is Elizabeth Denise.
I'm Anna Brizendine.
And I'm Gabriella Chicudo.
So the first earthquake happened on December 16th, 1811, and this was due to the movement along the Cottonwood Grove Fault in northeastern Arkansas. The main shock occurred at 2:15 a.m. and continuous large aftershocks happened for the next 48 hours, ranging in magnitudes from 6.0 to 7.0. The second earthquake occurred on January 23rd of 1812, and this was due to movement along the fault line that runs perpendicular to the Real Foot Fault. This was the smallest of the three earthquakes, and the main shock occurred at 9:15 a.m. and estimated to have a magnitude of 7.5. The third earthquake happened on February 7th, 1812, and this was caused by a rupture on the New Madrid North Fault line. This was the strongest of the three earthquakes. The main shock occurred at 3:45 a.m., which caused structural and landscape damage to the surrounding area. There are various hypotheses regarding the cause of this sequence of earthquakes. Some say that the New Madrid seismic zone is a hotspot. Others say that the Missouri River was downcutting the area and weakening the Earth's crust. Two very popular and highly supported ideas is one from Mark Zoback, which says the fault movement was due to the fault movement due to the release of stress on the surface from melting glaciers. Another idea was from Alessandro Forte, which says that it was due to changes in the mantle flow beneath the New Madrid seismic zone.
Okay, so for the human impact, loss of life, damage of infrastructure, famine, or political or social unrest. So the earthquake affected human life, the land, and infrastructure in different ways, depicting from the different earthquakes. So earthquake one had alarming earth shakes reaching 2.5 million square kilometers. However, it damaged 600,000 square kilometers. There was only slight damage to the man-made structures from the first earthquake. However, one life was lost due to a chimney falling on them. In the Mississippi River, there was also extreme waves causing boat damage and struggle for the people on the boats. However, there were no reports of any lives lost. And earthquake number two, that was the smallest of the three, and there were some slight damage to man-made structures similar to the first, but not as much, and there were no lives reported to be lost. Earthquake 3 was the most severe out of the three, and the town of New Madrid was completely destroyed. The number of deaths known is unknown because of poor records at the time, and the survival rate is expected to be very low, not only to the damage from the earthquake, but the aftermath of the damaging of the earthquake due to no houses being still up and nowhere for them to live. Um, there was destruction to infrastructures in other areas like Ohio, other places in Missouri, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And there was summary of damages to land that caused infrastructure damage was ground warping, ejection, fissuring, several landslides, and caving of stream banks. So the political effect, the president at the time was James Madison, and he was said to have felt the earthquake 900 miles away, however, did not decide to help the community hurt by the damages and left it to the territorial governor. So it wasn't until January of 1814 that the territorial governor, William Clark, finally decided to address the damage that was done by the earthquakes, which was 2 years after the earthquake had occurred. William Clark, George Bullitt, and Samuel Hammond created the Resolution for Relief of the Inhabitants of the County of New Madrid, which was sent to Congress to discuss relief for the damages of the town. And it wasn't until February 17th of 1815 that Congress passed a $50,000 New Madrid Relief Act that ideally was given to New Madrid residents. They were given land certificates to then buy land in other parts of Missouri. However, it wasn't that successful because out of the 516 issued certificates, only 20 were given to the New Madrid residents. And the bank actually ended up failing. The Bank of Missouri ended up failing, and the money that was given to buy this land became worthless. So the disaster, it was almost like a disaster. Um, the society and settlement after earthquake number 3. The entire New Madrid society was destroyed, like I said earlier. So the few survivors that were left sought refuge in whatever was left around the area, like leftover buildings. They camped out in the woods and attempted to walk to nearby civilization. Like I mentioned, the federal government didn't send any help initially, so a lot of people struggled at first, and the entire society was really pretty much destroyed and gone. The act, like I said, wasn't successful. So New Madrid, it took a long time for that area to be rebuilt, and that society was pretty much destroyed anyways.
The environmental impacts of the earthquakes. So the climate was not affected by the large earthquakes. There weren't large ash clouds that were covering or anything. However, the landscape was severely affected. There were reports of ground waves, which caused trees to fall, uprooting them and creating and leaving holes in the earth where water seeped in. The earthquakes also caused major landslides and sand blows. Wildlife wasn't really affected. However, it was reported that the animals were very unsettled. A primary source reported that domestic animals became wild and wild animals became tame. Snakes crawled out of the ground from hibernation. Flocks of ducks and geese landed near people. Just animals, the animals were acting out of their natural behavior. The effects of the earthquakes were not felt globally, but felt very nationally. They were felt all over the country, including a little upwards towards Canada. The local effects were destroying local farms and homesteads. And as I said previously, the trees were uprooted and they fell, creating large holes in the ground for the water to come into, which created the sand blows, which blew. That's the high pressure, and that's what caused large eruptions. Effects felt nationally were church bells were ringing in South Carolina and Boston, and chimneys were falling in Ohio. Which Earth systems were affected? It was only the geosphere. The fissures opened in the ground filled with water from the Mississippi River. The picture on the right is a sand blow, and large landslides down the mountains and riverbanks cause a lot of just erosion. But other than that, the no other Earth systems were very affected.
So some fun facts. The New Madrid earthquakes of 1811 and 1812 rank as some of the largest earthquakes seen in the United States since the settlement by the Europeans. President James Madison documented that he felt the earthquake in the White House, and the earthquakes occurred in the central Mississippi Valley, however, were felt as far as Canada and east in the north, as far north as Canada and east and north New York City, Boston, Montreal, and Washington, D.C. The federal government took 2 years to help with the damages from the earthquake in New Madrid, and the Midwest had experienced violent quakes around AD 1450 and 900 and 2350 BC. And here are our sources.
I hope you learned a lot about the earthquakes from 1811 and 1812. Thank you.